Hey everyone, Gnogart here. After the January 2023 ban list and the release of Photon Hypernova, which got us Kashtira, which is a major counter to this deck, Tearlament was largely ignored, and for good reason. If the best deck is Walking Macrocosmos, can be hard to get your graveyard deck going. So Tearlament has been largely ignored for the last about 6 months or so. Until lately, it's been picking up in popularity quite a bit. And with Duelist Nexus coming out, and with that introducing Revolution Synchron, interest in Tearlament has spiked in the last weeks. So I wanted to make this video if you want to get back into Tearlaments but don't know where to start. There has already been a lot of things that have been tried out from people on Dueling Book, in tournaments, from me personally too. And I just wanted to kind of wrap it all up in like about 1 or 2 videos, just to like dump all my knowledge to you, and then you can do with that knowledge whatever you want. So I already said 1 or 2 videos. This is going to be a lot of content, but I'm gonna timestamp the segments. So if you just want to learn about the Shaddolls package, and you can just click on Shaddolls, or if you want to learn about, I don't know, Rescue Ace, you click on Rescue Ace. So just do that. And if you got questions or if I forgot something, leave them in the comments, or even better, join the Discord. The link is going to be in the description. So let's get started. So for the core of the deck, the main Tearlament engine, we'll start off with our 3 tier names. They're all at 1, and you want to maximize on your fusion cards, so not much to talk about. One thing that is worth mentioning is that Chiron is your main play starter going first, and Haven is your main play starter going second, and then Merle is just there to be milled. We have then the Tearlament Rhinoheart. So I've seen some people cut it down to 2 because they say, I don't want to run a lot of normal summons, but I personally don't see Reinhardt as your normal summon. He's not a 1-card starter anymore, so that's not what you want to do often. Instead, what I see Reinhardt is that he's another mill target, especially since going first, for example, these 2 in your hand are very bad draws, because what you want to do is you want to mill them and you want to fuse with them, and in your hand you cannot do that. Merle is not your play starter. You don't want to start with a normal summoning Merle, and Havness you can't get out of your hand going first. So milling a Reinhardt means that you can get these 2 out of hand while getting a special summon, a body on board, and another mill. So that's why I think maxing out on Rhino is good. If you only have Rhino and no other plays, what you do is you will normal Rhino and send Tearlament's Kashtira. Now, this is the newest member of the crew, and it's way better in Tearlament than it is in Kashtira. You can special summon this, then you banish a Tearlament or Kashtira card from your hand or graveyard, and then on summon you can mill 3 from your deck or your opponent's deck. Most of the time it's going to be yours. And if this is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you mill 2. So yeah, this just extends your plays, gives you a big body on board, and just helps you cycle through your deck way faster. Definitely max out on those. Then maxing out, we also will max out the field spell. So 3 Polar Rhino and 1 Terraforming. Non-negotiable for me, because you just want to get to your low amount of tier names, especially to get your play started. I like to play with I like to start with Chiron, and if I have the Chiron access, I want to keep milling with Tearlament Kashtira. So getting those with the Pearl Rhino is important, and also Pearl Rhino can serve as a disruption in your opponent's turn, or sometimes during your first turn, during your combo, you also destroy some of your cards. So it just like holds the whole deck together. Then we have, for the Tearlament spells and traps, we have Scream. I would advise playing like 2 to 3. I'm currently on 2, although I'd like to play 3 because it just helps you get through your deck much faster. You just get the extra +3 mill. And if you get this to the graveyard, you get your trap, which I also want to end on the trap, because it helps you play through a Dark Ruler no more because you have varied interactions. If you only have all your interactions on the monsters, you're susceptible to blowout cards. Speaking of traps, there is the Soliak, which is a bit worse to draw going first if you can't already play, because you cannot activate this, obviously, unlike Scream. But milling this just means you get access to one of your tier names, which I mentioned you really want to see, and this is also your main form of back row interaction. I think this is the best trap because it can send your monsters from the field. It triggers Kaleido Heart, which gets your plays going even more, and it's you can use it every turn, and the negate is permanent, so just a very, very strong card. Currently I'm on 2. 2 to 3 is probably what you want to look at. Now, if you don't want to run 3 of the Soliak but want another trap, Meta Noise is a very, very good trap. Just another form of interaction. The reason why I don't run this right now and just play 3 Soliak is because the Grave effect is kind of mediocre, because usually if you add something back, you already used it. The only good add back really is Tearlament Kashtira. But on the plus side, first you have a second form of interaction because this is once per turn, so 2 Soliak will not do anything for you. And this also can sometimes be a turn skip against Kashtira, which is your worst matchup. Then we have the Tearlament's Crime. I would not advise you to main deck this, but it's definitely a common side deck card in this deck to play around board breakers, evenly matched, or Dark Ruler more, you name it. And sometimes you can just pitch a Shizu card from your hand with this, and then you just negated their card and mill 5. It's very, very good. Would not main deck it though. Then we have Tearlament's Grief. If you don't know what this does, you special summon a Tearlament or Visas from your deck, and then you send one monster with the same type or attribute from your field to the graveyard. So oftentimes you will just special summon a monster and then send it right away. So for Tearlament, it's basically a Foolish. It can just be a nice extender for you, but the mill effect, again, is not that great. So if this gets milled, you can add a banished Tearlament trap and add it to your hand, which oftentimes will not happen, or you have to hit a specific order, which means like you go Tearlament's Kashtira, banish a trap, mill this, and then you can add the trap back. So if you have one space in your deck, this is not a bad add, but usually I don't include it in my decks. And then lastly we have Tearlament's Heartbeat. This is back row removal, so you target one spell trap, or if you have Visa Staffrost, you can target 2, and then you shuffle them in the deck, and you can discard 1 card from your hand. And if this is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add back a trap, which is nice. I wouldn't main deck this, but I really like side decking one of this because of the next cards we're going to show. And those are, nope, not the next cards. Just fast forward a bit. Because of these cards. So Foolish Burial Goods and Trivi Karma. So Foolish Burial Goods can send any spell trap to the grave. So all of your Tearlament spell traps have an effect. So you can get a trap add, or you get a monster add, or whatever you want. And Trivi Karma as a trap, you can banish it from your graveyard and add any spell or trap that mentions Visa Staffrost to your hand. Now, if you look at the cards, that includes these, and even the field spell. So most of the time you're going to use Trivi Karma to get the field spell, but if you already have the field spell, it's very nice to get the trap. Now, why I like siding a Heartbeat if I have this engine is because you already run these. Usually I run 2 Foolish Burial Goods. If you run Pure, I would recommend running 3 because you really want to see the Pearl Rhino. But for like hybrid builds, I would, or like just builds with a different engine built into it, I would play 2. I'm just going to, you don't want to see multiples of this. And then, although I would really like to play 3, but space issues. And if you side this, you have 1 back row removal, and you also have like automatically these two, which can get you to this. So just by siding one back row removal card, you have 3 in your deck already, or 4 if you play 3 burial goods. That's why I like to side one of this card. All right, so back on track. Another very popular card for the Tearlaments deck is King of the Swamp. Since Kit Colors is banned, you need a way to make Rule Colors, and King of the Swamp can substitute for Rule Colors, for Kit Colors in the graveyard. It also opens up a lot of other lines because it's a fusion substitute. We will get to that in a minute. And the other effect lets you discard it to add a polymerization to your hand, which can get you started in your place and also gives you access to Guardian Chimera, which is a really strong going second card. So sometimes you can just set a Tearlament name, go poly, fuse with an Ishizu card in your hand, like a Miller, and then you summon the Guardian Chimera, which is chain blocked and untargetable. You can pop whatever is troubling you the most. It has 3,300, which is more than a lot of the boss monsters, so it's really good for breaking boards. Now, if you don't want to run the poly and the Guardian Chimera, I would recommend, instead of running King of the Swamp, to run Beast King of the Swamp. It has more attack, which is not that relevant, but the relevant part is it can also substitute. It is also an Aqua, but it has level 4. And level 4 is much better with the plays you make because your main Xyz lines are rank 4s with Rhino Heart or with Shiren, and this is just a lot of level 4. It can also be very relevant for synchro lines, which is especially important in the Synchron variant that we'll talk about later. So if you don't want to run the poly package, definitely consider this. Or if level 4s are very important in your build, you can also consider playing this instead. So then we have the Ishizu cards, obviously. They're all at 1. I would always run these two. These are broken now that you don't run into mirrors every time. You can just get a free mill 5 and usually you profit off of it. And then we have the Shufflers, which a lot of people side the Mudora and play this package, which is something you can do if you're low on space and if you play a lot of against Kashtira. Although if you play a lot of Kashtira, then just don't play this deck. Just wait for the ban list. But if you want to just be good against Rogue, and most Rogue decks are graveyard dependent, you just run the full package. And yeah, these are also level 4, can help you make rank 4 plays, and just super strong. And sometimes you just open the nuts and you just feel like nothing has ever changed. Then we have the one-off Foolish Burial. It's at 1, but it sends Agido, and then you mill 5, so yeah, I would definitely play this. Sometimes if you for whatever reason, if you already have everything you want, you can use this to not mill Agido, but you just go for a targeted mill for King of the Swamp or a tier name or whatever your engine is, and then you can get to place that way. But this is just incredibly flexible in this deck, so definitely play one of this. All right, so that's for the main deck cards and Guardian Chimera. So let's talk about extra deck staples. So we always run Rule Colors and we always run Kaleido Heart. These are the tier cards, and then we have Honorable Tier Fusion Grapha. You just make this with any Tearlament name and King of the Swamp. Kaleido Heart is like Rhino Heart plus 2 Aqua monsters, or King of the Swamp plus 2 Aqua monsters, and Rule Colors also King of the Swamp and a tier name. And then you run Dragostapelia, just any of your fusions if it's in the graveyard. This helps you recycle your resources and also give you another disrupt. So for example, if you've used your Rule Colors in this turn and you have a tier name milled, and then you can just swap it back for the Dragostapelia, and then you can get the Rule Colors back later. Then we have Mod Dragon of the Swamp. It's level 4. It can help you dodge targeting effects, but more importantly, it can recycle darks like Dragostapelia and Grapha. Most of the time Dragostapelia, because Dragostapelia already recycles all of your fusions, so the only way to recycle your Dragostapelia is via Mud Dragon. And then we have Garura. Not as important as these, because you make Garura by fusion fusioning like 2 tier names, and the only tier names are these 3. So most of the time you either run other aquas, or you have poly for 2 of the tiers or 2 of the Ishizus, or you have you mill the Tearlament name that you already used, so you can recycle it by just fusing into Garura, and then you link it off, draw 1, or you go into a rank 6 detach and then draw 1. Then we have Sprite Sprint. Now, I've seen a lot of decks not include this, but I think this is just staple in this deck, because Sprite Sprint on summon obviously sends Murley, and you want to get the most out of your Tearlament fusion names. So having a targeted mill for any fusion is just very important. Now, obviously you need a level 2 or a rank 2, and your deck is very light on level 2s. So you have to pair it with a rank 2. And for that you have a choice of following link monsters. There's Cross Sheep, which is really, really good in this deck, in my opinion. It's currently very underused in Tearlament, but I think Shunping, for example, played it, called it the new Sprite Elf, which you can see it that way. But usually what you do is, when you play, is you go for your Garura colors first, and you can summon the Cross Sheep here, and then you just summon anything in this zone. Most of the time is Tearlament's Kashtira, which will trigger Cross Sheep and get something back. I usually save this for the opponent's turn because it's more powerful then. Like you have this setup, your opponent does something, you go special summon Tear Cash, mill 3, and then the Cross Sheep can resurrect your Rhino Heart, which will then send a tier name, and then you just go off from there. So Cross Sheep, definitely an option for your Link 2. Another option is Masquerina. Just very, very simple. You have 2 leftover bodies, which oftentimes are your Tier Cash and something else. You go into Masquerina, and then in your opponent's turn, Masquerina plus anything, oftentimes your Tearlament's Kashtira number 2. I go into Sprite Sprint, send a Murley, and then you fuse from there. Then you have Dark to Dark Charmer. If you want to keep it simple and just go for a sprint going second, you just go Dark, steal one of the Dark monsters, and then go into sprint that way. So you have like a Link 2 sprint in that case. And then if you really, really don't want to break on Trivi Karma anymore, you can just play Barricade Blocker, which on Link Summon you discard a card. And funnily enough, during your end phase, you get to add back either Scream or Pelarino even. So that's nice. But yeah, and then you have Barricade Blocker plus any other body goes to Sprite Sprint. So that is it for the Sprint package. I'm going to put this here. And lastly, for the main cards, we have Redoer. I think this is the one Xyz that I call staple, just because the way I play this deck is I often go through Shiren, and then at some point after I've loaded my graveyard, I'm going to normal Rhino Heart to mill something, and sometimes you also go into Mud Dragon, and then you just overlay these 2 for Redoer, and depending on the state of the game, you either keep this to fuse in your opponent's turn, or you just you detach right away, trigger the Shiren, and that's how you get the Shiren effect off, even though you used her for the mill too. So that's why I think this is staple. Another neat thing is, because it comes back in the end phase, so there's a nice interaction with both Sprint and Masquerina, is usually you take a card from your opponent's deck, and oftentimes it's not a trap, so you do not get an interruption out of this, but you can make use of the Redoer body just by, if it has any material, Sprite Sprint, if you made it in your turn, can then detach the material to bounce a special summoned monster. Or if you don't have Sprint, but you have Masquerina lying around, you just use the Redoer with the Masquerina to go into Sprint. So Redoer in your turn makes a fusion, and in your opponent's turn can also be used. Okay, that's it for the main cards for the Tearlament deck. And let's go to the next segment. So let's talk about some of the more peripheral support, which still are used in pure Tearlament. So without diving into like more sophisticated engines, these are cards that you can use to enhance your strategy. So first of all, there is Gamma Seal. Gamma Seal is just a good going second card. It outs a Rise Heart, which is why I really like it. And the most important thing, it's a going second card, which is also an Aqua, so you can use it to fuse into your Kaleido Heart. So that's why honorable mention, even though it's a going second card, it just really, really works with your engine here. So then we have Diviner of the Herald, which can just be played as a normal summon for your deck, as your main normal summon. So you can play this at 3. You can also just play it as 1, because if you want to just mill it and revive it with Cross Sheep, that's an option. But the nice thing about Diviner is you can normal summon it to send a Shizu card, like Agido or Kelbeck, to your grave, and then you mill 5 and have a level 6 tuner on the field, which can get you started at the cost of your normal summon. So with the level 6 tuner, you can either go into Baron with a level 4, like Rhinoheart, or you can go into Beatrice with, in the pure version, that would be Garura, but there are other ways to make rank 6s with this deck, which I will talk about later. So that's for Diviner of the Herald. Definitely one of the better normal summons in the deck. Other cards you can include, good mill targets, are just Zephyros the Elite, without diving into the Blackwing package. That's a different segment, but Zephyros, just on its own, it's a decent mill. It's a level 4, it can bounce a card, so oftentimes you will bounce your Scream, for example, just because it's on the field, you already milled 3 and you want to discard it to get a trap. So you can use Zephyros for that, or more commonly is you use Zephyros to bounce your Tearlament Kashtira, because Tearlament Kashtira at the level doesn't really work with most of the stuff you're doing. And instead you get level 4 and you get the Tearlament Kashtira for your next turn as a disruption. And Zephyros, Destrudo, is there also as a mill, random mill, but you can also use it as an extender from your hand or a discard from your hand. And what you usually do with this is you summon it back targeting a level 4, so Shiren or Rhinoheart or Mud Dragon, and then it's level 3, and then you use Destrudo plus Tearlament Kashtira or Fenrir, if you play that, to go into Baron. So that's these two mill targets. And then next up we have another mill target, which is the Night Sword Serpent, which is just, if it's milled by a card effect, sent to the graveyard by a card effect, so also by Shiren from hand, it summons itself, and it's a level 4 water, so you can use this plus Mud Dragon or this plus Rhinoheart to go into Bahamut Shark, and Bahamut Shark can get you totally awesome as an Omni Negate. Reason I don't run this is because it means you have to devote 2 of your extra deck slots for this engine for the chance that you mill this. So that's why I don't run it, but it's definitely a good option because the Omni Negates are always good, and totally awesome also gets you a monster back when it dies. Then for the extra deck we have Lubellion the Searing Dragon. Now you might wonder, why is this here? So this needs a Dark Monster and Fallen of Albas, which means any Tearlament name plus King of the Swamp, and then you discard a card to fuse with your banished pile and your graveyard. So this means you can do some stuff, some fusions that you couldn't do with, like, that you could only do with polymerization otherwise, like stuff where Tearlament is not involved. But the main reason you play this, if you want to play it, is it can get you back into the grind game if your opponent bestialed you. So you summon the Lubellion, you discard a card, and you can recycle back the banished Tearlament. Worst case, you just fuse the banished Tearlament with the Lubellion and go into Dragostapelia. But also you can do stuff like recycle your Tooth Shufflers if you use both of them and go into Garura that way. Now, note that Lubellion says after you use the effect, you cannot summon from the extra deck except for Fusion Summon. Now, this says after, so you can do all your link stuff before, but after you've done this, you cannot link this off. Unless you leave it on board and then you go into IP, and then you have a body for IP. That's usually what you do with this. Or you fusion it away for Dragostapelia.
but Abyssal counter, we have this. Then we have Baguska, just a rank 4 Xyz. Usually played if you get shifted, you just make Baguska and hope you live. Definitely an option for that. And also what you can do is summon an attack, it can't be targeted, and you attack and make Zeus. This is probably the easiest Zeus you can do in this deck. Another rank 4 is Dugaris. If you have a more rank 4 extender heavy engine, you can play Dugaris and use the draw 2 effect. So you draw 2, discard 1, which can be an Ishizu card, a Tearlament card, or a Trivikarma. And then you just link this off. Then we have Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. It's a link 3, so you need 3 monsters with different names. And the important effect here is if this card is link summoned with a level 7 or higher monster, your opponent cannot target it with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. So some decks just don't have an out to this, and it's relatively easy to make because the level 7 in question here is Tearlament Kashtira. So if you want to cheese some games, definitely Blackluster Soldier is your option here. Then we have something you've probably heard about, which is the Dragossack combo. So Dragossack needs 2 level 7 monsters, and the effect is you detach a material and you get 2 tokens. So you summon the 2 tokens, and with those 2 tokens that are level 3, you make Cherubini. So Cherubini, effect for cost, sends a level 3 monster, in this case King of the Swamp, and increases the attack, that's the effect. So this way you get your King of the Swamp, your Fusion Sub in the grave, and then you link those 2 off for Sprint. Sprint will then send Merly, and with Merly and King of the Swamp, you will go into Vulcanos. So this is a combo that the OCG played early on, but later on dropped. I haven't seen it in a while, and for good reason. I don't think you want to use 2 level 7s to go into all of this, which is very susceptible to hand traps, just to get 1 fusion off. Now, there is another line with Dragossack and Cherubini that is actually worth playing, but it is part of a package that I will show you in a different segment. So that's it for the other cards you can play in this deck. Let's hop onto the first engine. Alright, so this package I don't really consider a package anymore. For me it's pretty staple, but it's a matter of budget too. So you can play Kashtira Fenrir in this deck. I currently play 2. You can play 1 and a field spell, or you can just play 2. Or if you want, you can play all of them, which currently I am playing 2 Fenrir and 1 field spell. Reason being is if I draw Terraforming and Pearl Rhino, or Terraforming and Foolish Burial Goods, so I can get to Pearl Rhino. Using the Terraforming to get Raid Salt is actually very strong because you can activate the field spell, go into Fenrir, and Fenrir can then search you your Tearlament's Kashtira, and then you already have like a body, which can also sometimes be disrupt in your opponent's turn, and you get one of your main extenders, and that's already a +1 here. Now, another thing you can do is you can add 1 of Rizard into your deck, which means that with Fenrir you can search the Rizard if you need a level 4, or if you need level 7, so that's why 2 Fenrirs are so cool, because you can search 1 Fenrir, get the Rizard. Now, I've posted this combo somewhere, and I got the comment that Rizard locks you into Xyz, but if you read the card, it says it only locks you into Xyz if you special summon it. So in this case, you would special the Fenrir, normal the Rizard, and then you banish the second Rizard, so you don't mill it anymore. And then you have 2 level 7s, and from here on out you can go and do the Dragossack combo. So you overlay these 2 for Dragossack and go from there. So this would enable a 1-card Dragossack combo, which, as we talked about before, I don't think it's worth it just for King of the Swamp. but keep an eye out for this later. Similar to Beast King of the Swamp, Riseheart can also help you get another level 4 for your synchro plays. So if you need more level 4s, if the deck is very level 4 heavy, consider playing the Riseheart in addition to your Fenrir's. As for Fenrir, if you have the budget, if you can afford this, I would 100% run this because the deck is very tight, so having a card that enables both going first and going second is just invaluable. Alright, now you go into the more interesting engines. One of the most popular ones is the Shaddolls engine. So in the OCG, a lot of people played it like this. So you play Shaddolls Beast, which on when it's sent to the graveyard, it draws a card. Squamata, when it's sent to the graveyard, sends another Shaddolls. And Hell Shaddolls, when it's sent to the graveyard, mills a card for each different attribute on the board. So it's like a mini Ishizu Miller in addition to your Ishizu Millers. Now, I've seen currently a trend of just playing the Beast, and it's also currently something I want to do, is just play the Beast as an extra mill target. I like the Beast more than the Hell Shaddolls, because Hell Shaddolls, while it is like a mini Ishizu, the Beast is just a guaranteed value, while this you're gambling. So running the Beast alone enables you to first play Winder. Winder can just sometimes end the game on her own. And more importantly, the reason why I incorporated it in my deck is you can side the 3-off Shaddolls Fusion for going second in combination with a Shekinaga. So you go second, and what you do is you have these in your deck now. Your opponent has an extra deck monster, if they're not on Kashtira, and then you can just go Shaddolls Fusion, send a Ishizu Miller, send Beast, go chainlink one Ishizu Miller, chainlink to Beast, so that the Ishizu Miller is chain blocked, and you mill 5 and have a Shekinaga with 2600 on board, either to link off or to attack over something, for example, an Appaloosa. And that's just like one card that can get you into a board. Now, Shekinaga also has a negate effect, but it requires you to have a Shaddolls in hand. So that is more relevant for a more sophisticated Shaddolls package. If you do that, what you can, instead of running the Beast, what you can do is, instead of sending the Beast, is you go Shaddolls Fusion and you send Shaddolls Hedgehog. So the Hedgehog will then, on send, add you a Shaddolls, and you mill 5, and then you have Shekinaga with a negate because of the card you added off of Hedgehog, plus the mill 5 and what you have off of it. So in addition to, if you side the Shaddolls Fusion, you also want to side one Shaddolls Dragon, just so that if your opponent has back row, instead of sending the Beast, you can go Shaddolls Fusion, send the Dragon, pop the back row, maybe a Floodgate, and that's just free value there and can help you play. Now, there's also like another smaller package that you can use, and that is the Granguinol. I got this idea from the Shunping video, which Shunping had a bigger Shaddolls package, but if you want to keep it minimal, you can do something like you play Granguinol in your main, you play Beast in your main, and you play Abkalon and Schism. So Granguinol needs a Cartesia and a Light or Dark, so it's just Tearlament plus King of the Swamp. So what you do is you go into this, you send the Abkalon. Abkalon will then add Schism and you discard a card. You set the Schism and you already have the Shaddolls engrave, and you can just, any of your darks plus the Abkalon, you go into Winder. It's just a small engine that you can use. And if you already drew the Schism, you just add the Beast, discard it, draw a card, or you just add the Beast and discard a Tearlament name or a Miller or whatever. So that's a small engine for Shaddolls that you can also run. Now, speaking of the Shunping version, they also played Construct and Falco, in addition to, I think, all of these cards. And these two, obviously. And these inside. So what that does is you just have a lot of good mill targets. And the reason there is a Falco in the deck is because it's a tuner. So there's a combo, and they mentioned it in the video, and I hope I get this right now, is that if you mill the Falco, for example, so you set it, then you can go into Granguinol somehow with your fusion, and you send the Abgalon. And instead of going for the Schism, they played one Shaddolls fusion in the main. You add the Shaddolls fusion, and you need like 2 more bodies, which you can easily get to go into Cross Sheep. So what you do then is you Shaddolls fusion a light and a Shaddolls monster into Construct, which will then trigger the Cross Sheep and obviously the Construct. Construct can then send the Schism if you haven't built it already, and the Cross Sheep can bring back Falco. So now you can synchro like 2 and 8 for Baron. Make sure to not clog your Cross Sheep zones, and then the Construct in the grave triggers to get back your Schism. You can set the Schism, and in your opponent's turn you can just Schism with any of your Shaddolls monsters here, plus a Dark, which is Falco at least, and you can get into Winda this way. And you can also trigger the Cross Sheep that way. Like, you have one special summon, so Winda can enable it with the Cross Sheep. So that's it for the Shaddolls part of the deck. Let's move on. So heroes have been, I think, the best performing version in the TCG so far, so definitely worth looking into. Now, what does heroes mean? Most of the time, a hero version just means you play 2 Malicious, you play Destiny Hero Dangerous, and you play Beatrice. This is the absolute minimum. And what this does for you is, if you mill a Malicious, either you can just use it as an extender for your link plays, but more importantly, if you mill a Malicious and the Tearlament name, you can fuse them together for Dangerous. Now, Dangerous is a level 6 monster, that's important. 1 Destiny Hero plus 1 Dark. And the effect is you can discard a card for cost. So usually the best target is an Ishizu card or Trivi Karma to send a Destiny Hero from a deck to a graveyard. So you send the Malicious that you just shuffled back to the grave, you can banish it, get the second one, and you overlay them for Beatrice. Just 1 fusion plus random discard into Beatrice, which is an incredible card for this deck, because in your turn you detach, you send a card, anything you want, a Miller, Trivi Karma, King of the Swamp, a tier name. Oftentimes for me it's Trivi Karma, but you can do whatever you want with this. And in your opponent's turn you can also just detach the second material to mill another card, which then often will be a tier name for a fusion, or if you really want to go crazy, you just send a Miller and just go off. So that's for the minimum package, and that is the in my opinion, the most viable way of playing this, or like the most safe way. The other versions, I will now demonstrate what you can do too. You can just add 1 Denier, which is just 1 more card, but it can increase the ceiling of this, because what you can do is, if you have the setup that I just showed, you can use the Beatrice, send the Malicious. It's important that you send the Malicious here, to send Denier. Now Denier says when you have a Destiny Hero on field or in the graveyard, you can special summon it once per duel, and if it's summoned, you can take 1 Destiny Hero from your banished, grave, or your deck and put it on top of your deck. So you take the banished Malicious, put it on top of your deck, and then you use the Malicious in grave to special summon this back, and then you have 2 monsters that you can use as a link material to go, for example, into Masquerina. So in your opponent's turn, after you used your Beatrice, you can use Masquerina to link this off. So 1 more card into your deck just means you increase the ceiling of this engine a lot, but we have to be wary about how many bricks we want to add into our deck. So keep that in mind when you want to include Denier. Now, another thing that you can do is, I talked about this in the Kashtira segment, and that is the 1 card Dracossack combo. So both the Kashtira segment and the Dracossack segment will now come into play, is where you have the Kashtira Fenrir, you can normal summon the Rise Heart, You can also just do this by Fenrir plus Tier Cache, but I just wanted to demonstrate why having the 1 of Rise Heart could be helpful. Then you use the Rise Heart effect to make it 7. Go into Dracosac, detach, go into Cherubini. You know how I talked about how I don't think it's worth sending King of the Swamp for this combo because all you get out of it is a Rule Colossus. This is this is the only way I would play this package, is if I played Denier, because Denier is also level 3. So Cherubini can send Denier, and now you can link those two into Sprint, sending him early, and then you go Merly plus Denier to Dangerous. Now, Dangerous does what we already showed. So we send the Mally, we banish it, we overlay, like Beatrice, and now out of your 1 card Fenrir combo, you have a Sprint, which can, in your opponent's turn, serve as a disruption if you get another XZs here. But most importantly, you have Beatrice, which is infinitely better than Rukalos, because it is in Disrupt, and it also gets your play started. So if you want to run the Dracossack combo, I would recommend just for this line, not for the King of the Swamp, or just don't run this line at all. So another thing you can do with the heroes is you can play DPE. Now there are 2 ways of making DPE. Obviously, this is hero level 6 or higher and a Destiny hero monster, so this is not doable off of just a Tearlament fusion. But 2 ways of doing this is either you have Lubellion, I showed this before, it's as a Bestial counter, but if you just run a hero package and which can also just be the minimal hero package, like if you already just have the Malicious, the 2 Malicious and the Dangerous, that's already enough to be able to make DP by just fusing a Tearlament and a King of the Swamp into Lubellion, and then you fuse 2 of these to make DPE. Another version, I think, which topped French Nationals, played 3 Fusion Destiny and a bigger hero package with Celestial, which means your Fusion Destiny can just send 2 heroes, one of them Celestial, make DPE, and then you have follow-up, draw 2. Now, why I don't like this engine a lot is because Fusion Destiny has the lock. So if you, first of all, you have to hot draw it, it's not a good mill. And then sometimes your mills can be awkward if you mill your heroes that you want to send. And adding to all of that, you have to activate it at the end of your combo. So it doesn't help you get into your combo, which I would say if Tearlament gets to play, that's already more than you need. But instead, it just adds on top of the combo. So the best case scenario for Fusion Destiny is you draw it, you play a bit, your opponent disrupts you, and you have just 1 power card left in your hand to make at least the DPE. Now, DPE per se, I think, is a fantastic card for grinding, and if I had a way to make it easily, I would definitely play it. I have considered just playing this package, but extra deck space is so tight, so I might go back to this, but Fusion Destiny I would not recommend. But if you like heroes, definitely something you can do. Now, for the last thing I wanted to show about heroes is if you really want to go sophisticated heroes, I showed you Diviner as a normal summon, but the second best normal summon I have seen so far is Vion. Now, how does Vion work as a normal summon here? What you do is you play Vion and you play the Mist, and as a consistency card you can also play Rhoda. So you have 4 of your normal summons here, and Rhoda can also get you a Denier if you play it, so that you can fuse it off, or just a Rhino Heart. The combo works following. You go normal summon Vion, you send the Shadow Mist, which when it's sent to the graveyard will add you a hero, and in this case it's Malicious. Now, with these 2, you can then use Vion effect to banish your Shadow Mist and add to your hand a Polymerization. Then you can go polymerization, if you use those two, to go into your dangerous. And then you already have the melee engrave, you don't even have to use the dangerous effect. You banish the melee, get another melee. But if you play the bigger package, you can use dangerous effect to also send the denier. And then you overlay those two for your Beatrice. Beatrice sends something, and then you go the whole denier line where you special it, put this back, banish melee, and go into a link play. So just off of one Vian, you can go into Beatrice plus a send off of dangerous if you play it. But my issue with this is, first, I don't like committing my normal summon. I want to be flexible with it. But that's not a big reason. You definitely can make use of the normal summon that you have for this deck. The bigger reason is that in addition to these three, if you draw multiples of these, it's already not good. You have to run the 2 melee, which also can be bricks. And most importantly, you have to run the mist, which can be a brick. And if you're where you want to extract the full potential, you also play this. So it's very heavy on bricks, but it gives you a very, very powerful normal summon. So keep that in mind. Diviner is definitely more, it's a less expensive normal summon because you already play the Miller, so you can just drop it down and mill 5. So that's it for the hero engine. So just to recap, these two are the ones you want. The rest, I will not take any responsibility for what you do with them.
All right, that about wraps it up for the first part of the guide. The next part will touch on like Synchrons, Blackwings, Rescue Ace, and also have a bit of a gameplay guide. So if you want to see that, subscribe. And if you have another package that you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments or in the Discord. That's a reminder to join the Discord if you want to talk to me. And I'll see you next time.